The sun began to set, casting long shadows on the empty road as Alara walked home, her mind heavy with thoughts of the day. She had spent hours at the party, surrounded by laughter and glamour. Yet she felt like a ghost among the living. The glimmering lights and joyful faces were a sharp contrast to the emptiness she felt inside. "Why do they all seem so happy?" she whispered to herself, clutching her worn backpack closer. As she turned a corner, a sudden movement caught her eye. There, in a small clearing, was a horse. Unlike the elegant creatures she had seen at the party, this one was bruised and limping. Alara's heart sank. "What happened to you?" she gasped, rushing forward. The horse, with a coat as dark as the night, looked up at her with weary eyes. Alara knelt beside the creature, her fingers brushing against its matted fur. The horse flinched but did not move away. "It's okay," she murmured, feeling a strange connection with the animal. "I won't hurt you." In that moment she made a silent promise. "I will take care of you. Just hold on." Tears filled her eyes as she realized how much she needed this moment, how much this horse needed her. The world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them in their shared pain. Alara felt the weight of her unfulfilled dreams pressing on her chest, but alongside it, a spark ignited. "I can help you," she whispered, brushing a hand over the horse's neck. The creature leaned into her touch, sensing her sincerity. But what could she do? The town was not kind to dreamers. People scoffed at her aspirations, often reminding her of her failures. "You'll never make it," they said, their voices echoing in her mind. Yet, as she looked into Orion's eyes, she felt a resolve building within her. "I won't let you suffer like this," she said firmly. "We both deserve better." Alara took a deep breath, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. She glanced around, ensuring no one was watching her. The fear of judgment loomed large. She had always been the one who fell short. "What if I fail again?" she thought, but the horse nudged her gently, as if urging her to believe. "What should I call you?" she asked, looking for a name that fit the strength she felt radiating from him. "Orion," she decided, inspired by the stars she always dreamed of reaching. "You'll be my Orion." Yet even as she felt this bond grow, doubt crept in. How would she care for him? The town had its rules, and they would not look kindly on her taking in an abandoned horse. But what if I could change that? Alara wondered, her heart racing at the thought. What if we could find a way together? Alara stood, brushing dirt off her knees as she gazed at Orion. The sun dipped lower, and with it, her determination solidified. "I promise you," she said, "I will find a way to help you." With those words, a new chapter began, not just for Orion, but for her as well. Alara's life began to change after she found Orion. Each day, she walked to the small clearing where she had first seen him, her heart filled with hope as she approached the bruised horse, eager to help him heal. She spent hours sitting with him, talking softly and gently stroking his coat. Every moment felt like a step toward building their bond. However, not everyone in town shared Alara's vision. Many people watched her from a distance, shaking their heads and whispering doubts. "What does she think she is doing?" they said. "That horse will never get better." Their words stung, but Alara refused to let them stop her. She had a mission, and Orion needed her. At first, Orion was afraid of human touch. He flinched at sudden movements and backed away from loud sounds. Alara knew that gaining his trust would take time. With each visit, she brought him carrots and apples, placing them gently in front of him. Slowly, Orion began to eat from her hand. It was a small victory, but it filled Alara with joy. Alara was not only working to heal Orion, she was also facing her own struggles. She often thought about her dreams. Deep down, she longed to open an animal sanctuary, a safe place for animals in need. But her finances were tight. She worked long hours at a local cafe, just to make ends meet. The loneliness of her life often felt heavy, but Orion gave her hope. As the days passed, Alara and Orion grew closer. They shared moments of joy, like the time he took a hesitant step toward her, or when he nuzzled her shoulder, seeking comfort. Yet, there were also setbacks. Some days, Orion would not want to eat, and Alara worried about his health. She felt a shared pain within them both, the pain of neglect and the struggle to heal. Alara's commitment to Orion grew stronger with each challenge. She learned to be patient, to listen to his needs, and to respect his space. She understood that their healing journeys were intertwined. As she cared for Orion, she found pieces of herself that she had lost along the way. He was teaching her about resilience and trust, just as she was teaching him to feel safe. The townsfolk continued to watch, some with curiosity and others with skepticism. "She is wasting her time," they said. but Alara often ignored their whispers. She focused on Orion and the bright future she envisioned for both of them. At night, when she lay in bed, she dreamed of a sanctuary filled with animals needing love and care. She imagined children laughing and playing with the animals, just as she had played with them in her childhood. With every thought, Alara felt a renewed sense of purpose. As the sun rose each day, Alara was determined to make her dreams a reality. She knew that if she could save one horse, there was a chance to save many more. Each moment spent with Orion filled her with hope and fueled her passion. Together, they were not just healing, they were beginning to create a future where love and compassion could thrive. Alara stood at the edge of the clearing, looking at Orion as he grazed peacefully. "We will get through this together," she whispered, her heart swelling with determination. In that moment, she realized that every small step they took was a step towards a brighter tomorrow. The news arrived like a cold wave crashing over Alara. She was in the small cafe where she worked when she overheard two customers talking. They spoke of an auction, and Alara's heart sank as she heard the name of the wealthy magnate who owned Orion. The words selling and horse echoed in her mind, sending her into a spiral of panic. She felt the world around her blur, and a deep fear gripped her heart. Alara rushed outside, the warm sun on her face feeling distant and cold. The thought of losing Orion filled her with desperation. He was not just a horse to her. He was her friend, her purpose, and a part of her healing journey. The idea that someone could sell him away made her stomach twist in knots. She had to do something, but what could she do with her limited resources? She felt trapped, as if the walls of her small world were closing in on her. As she walked home, Alara's mind raced with thoughts. She knew she had to act fast. The auction was only a few days away. She sat on her bed, surrounded by papers, trying to brainstorm ways to raise the money needed to buy Orion back. Her heart beat loudly as she made a list of possibilities. Perhaps a bake sale, or maybe a car wash. She thought of reaching out to friends and neighbors for help. Each idea felt like a glimmer of hope, but doubt crept in. Would anyone care enough to support her cause? That night, Alara could hardly sleep. She tossed and turned, imagining Orion being led away by someone who did not understand his worth. The thought made her chest ache. She knew she had to gather her courage and share her plight with the community. As much as she feared their reactions, she needed their support. The next day, Alara decided to speak to the townsfolk. She walked to the town square, her heart pounding in her chest. She found a small group gathered near the fountain and took a deep breath. With a trembling voice, she told them about Orion and the auction. She explained how much the horse meant to her and how she wanted to save him from a life of neglect. The reactions were mixed. Some people listened with concern, while others shook their heads in disbelief. "Why would you waste your time on a horse?" one man said, his voice dripping with skepticism. Alara felt her heart sink, but she pressed on. She spoke passionately about the bond she shared with Orion and how he had changed her life. She wanted others to see that he was more than just an animal. He was a living being, deserving of love and care. As Alara poured out her heart, she noticed a few faces in the crowd beginning to soften. They exchanged glances, and a woman stepped forward. "I believe you, Alara. We can help," she said, her voice gentle but firm. The woman's support sparked something in the crowd, and slowly, others began to nod in agreement. Alara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. The conversation turned into plans. Ideas flowed as people began to discuss ways they could contribute. Some offered to bake goods for a sale, while others offered to help organize events. Alara's heart swelled with gratitude as she saw the community beginning to rally around her. That evening, Alara returned home, feeling a mix of exhaustion and hope. The road ahead would still be difficult, but for the first time, she felt she was not alone. As she lay in bed, she thought of Orion and the love they shared. She whispered into the night, "We will fight for you, my friend." In her heart, she knew that together, they would face this threat head-on. Alara woke up feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. The townspeople had shown their support, and plans were forming for fundraisers to help save Orion. As she walked through the town, she could see flyers being posted, announcing bake sales, car washes, and community events. The excitement was palpable, and each passing day brought her closer to the auction. One afternoon, a local journalist named MIA approached Alara at the cafe where she worked. MIA had heard about Alara and Orion's story and wanted to write an article about it. Alara felt nervous but also excited. She knew that sharing her story could reach more people and possibly inspire them to help. They sat at a small table in the cafe, and Alara poured out her heart, describing her bond with Orion and her determination to rescue him. Mia listened intently, jotting down notes. Alara could see the spark in Mia's eyes. The journalist was genuinely moved by her story. When the article was published, it quickly gained attention. The headline read, "Local woman fights to save abandoned horse." The article shared Alara's journey, her struggles, and the love she had for Orion. It resonated with many, and soon, the story went viral. As the news spread, Alara felt a wave of emotions wash over her. She watched as more people began to rally around her cause. Donations started pouring in, and strangers reached out, offering their help. The small town began to buzz with energy, united by a single purpose: to save Orion. The outpouring of support was overwhelming. Alara saw children selling lemonade on the street, neighbors baking cookies, and friends organizing events. The community came together in a way she had never imagined. Alara felt a renewed sense of hope and belonging. She had always felt like an outsider, but now she was at the center of something bigger than herself. As the auction day approached, Alara's anticipation grew. She spent her evenings preparing for the events, working alongside her new friends in the community. They painted signs, baked treats, and planned a big fundraiser at the town hall. Alara felt so grateful for each person who stepped up to help. Their kindness made her believe that anything was possible. The night before the auction, Alara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, thinking about Orion and all he had come to mean to her. She had promised him that she would fight for him, and now it felt like the entire town was fighting alongside her. She whispered to herself, "Whatever happens, we will face it together." On the morning of the auction, the air was filled with tension and excitement. Alara and her friends set up at the town hall, ready to welcome everyone who wanted to help. She felt a mix of fear and determination. This was the moment that could change everything. As she looked around at the faces of her friends and neighbors, Alara realized that no matter the outcome, she had already won something invaluable: the love and support of her community. Together, they had turned a desperate situation into a movement of hope. And as she prepared for the auction, Alara knew that she was not alone. She had found her place, and she would do everything in her power to save Orion. The day of the auction arrived, and the atmosphere was chaotic and tense. Alara stood among a crowd of bidders, her heart racing as she watched Orion being led onto the stage. The sight of him, standing proud yet vulnerable, sent waves of anxiety through her. She could see the bruises on his legs and the uncertainty in his eyes. He was no longer just a horse. He was her friend, her hope, and the embodiment of her dreams. As the auctioneer's voice boomed through the room, Alara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She glanced at the magnate, a tall man with an air of arrogance, who sat at the front of the room. He looked bored, flipping through papers, as if the lives of the animals being sold were mere commodities. Alara's heart sank as he began the bidding process, his smug demeanor a stark contrast to the urgency she felt inside. "Do I hear 50,000? The auctioneer called out, and the crowd stirred. Alara's mind raced. She had no money, and the thought of losing Orion was unbearable. She clenched her fists, focusing on the horse she had come to love. The bidding continued, and with each increase, Alara felt a wave of despair wash over her. It seemed that no one cared about Orion's well-being. They only saw a dollar sign. Just when she thought all hope was lost, a surprising figure appeared in the back of the room. A wealthy benefactor, known for his philanthropic efforts, had come to the auction. Alara recognized him from the news. He was someone who had supported many causes. As he stepped forward, the crowd silenced, intrigued by his presence. 75,000, the benefactor announced, his voice steady and clear. Alara's heart leaped as the room erupted with whispers. Could this man really be here to help? The auctioneer looked momentarily stunned, but quickly regained composure and continued the bidding. Alara held her breath, watching the benefactor with wide eyes. He seemed genuinely invested in saving Orion. The bids continued to climb, but Alara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the moment she had been waiting for. The magnate, realizing he was outmatched, scowled, but raised his bid one last time. 80,000, he shouted, trying to assert his dominance. But the benefactor remained calm, unfazed by the challenge. He looked directly at Alara, and in that brief moment, their eyes met. She could see determination in his gaze, and it fueled her own resolve. 85,000, the benefactor called out, his voice strong. The room buzzed with energy as people began to cheer for him. Alara felt tears welling in her eyes. This was it. This was the fight she had dreamed of. Then, in a dramatic twist, the benefactor raised the stakes one final time. 100,000, he declared, his voice echoing through the hall. The crowd erupted into applause, and Alara's heart soared. The auctioneer's hammer came down, signaling the end of the bidding. "Sold," he announced, and the room erupted in cheers. Alara could hardly believe it. The benefactor had won. He stepped forward, a warm smile on his face as he approached Alara. "This horse belongs with you," he said, handing her the winning bid ticket. Ilara's heart was full. She hugged Orion tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. The journey had been long and difficult, but in that moment, everything changed. She had not only saved a horse, she had found her place in the world. And with Orion by her side, she knew they could face whatever came next, together. Ilara stood in the sunlight, her heart bursting with joy as she reunited with Orion. The moment felt surreal. After all the struggles, they were finally together again. She knelt beside him, wrapping her arms around his neck. Tears of happiness streamed down her face as she whispered words of love and gratitude. Orion nuzzled her, sensing the bond between them was stronger than ever. With the auction behind them, Alara felt a new sense of purpose. She had always dreamed of starting an animal sanctuary, a place where she could care for animals like Orion. Now that dream was within reach. With the help of the generous benefactor, she began planning how to turn her vision into reality. Ilara found a piece of land on the outskirts of town that was perfect for her sanctuary. It had wide open spaces, fresh grass, and room for animals to roam freely. She envisioned a safe haven, where every creature would feel loved and cared for. It would be a place where animals could heal, just as she and Orion had healed together. As Ilara worked to establish the sanctuary, she reached out to the community for support. She shared her plans with friends and neighbors, hoping to gather volunteers and resources. To her surprise, people were eager to help. They loved the idea of a sanctuary and wanted to be part of something meaningful. Soon, a group of dedicated volunteers joined her, bringing their time and skills to help her dream come true. Days turned into weeks, and Ilara poured her heart into the sanctuary. She painted fences, built shelters, and created spaces for the animals to feel at home. Orion trotted beside her, a constant reminder of why she was doing this. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and Ilara found joy in watching Orion thrive in the new environment. As the sanctuary began to take shape, it became a hub for the community. People came to visit, bringing donations of food and supplies. Children laughed as they played with the animals, and families found a sense of belonging in this peaceful place. Ilara felt a warmth in her heart, knowing that she was not just helping animals, but also bringing people together. In quiet moments, Ilara reflected on her journey. She thought about the lonely days before she found Orion, the fears she had faced, and the love that had guided her through it all. She realized that rescuing Orion had changed her life in ways she never expected. It was not just about saving a horse, it was about discovering her true self and her passion for helping others. With each animal that arrived at the sanctuary, Ilara felt a sense of fulfillment. She nurtured their spirits and offered them a second chance, just as she had experienced with Orion. The sanctuary became a place of healing, and Ilara knew that together they were making a difference. As she watched Orion graze happily in the fields, Ilara felt a deep sense of gratitude. She understood that this was just the beginning of a beautiful journey. With Orion by her side and the support of the community, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that love and compassion could change the world, one animal at a time. The sanctuary flourished under Ilara's care, transforming into a beacon of hope for the town. People from all around came to see the place where animals found love and healing. Ilara worked hard to make sure every animal felt safe and cared for. She knew that each creature had a story, just like Orion. As the days passed, Orion thrived in his new home. He ran freely in the fields, his coat shining in the sunlight. He became a symbol of resilience, reminding everyone that love could heal even the deepest wounds. Children often visited to feed him treats and to play in the pastures. Orion loved the attention, and his joyful whinnies echoed through the sanctuary, filling the air with happiness. Ilara's relationship with the community grew stronger. She organized events to raise awareness about animal rights and welfare. The townspeople joined her in her mission, participating in workshops and volunteer days. Together, they learned how to care for animals and advocate for their needs. Ilara felt grateful for their support and realized that they were all part of a bigger family now. One sunny afternoon, Ilara stood at the edge of the fields, watching Orion gallop with other animals. She thought about how far they had come. The sanctuary had not only changed her life, but also impacted the lives of many. It became a place where people could connect with nature and each other, fostering a sense of community that had been missing for so long. Elara often reflected on her journey. She remembered the sadness she felt before she found Orion, and how he had changed everything. She understood now that their bond was not just about saving a horse. It was about igniting a spark of kindness in the world. Each time someone visited the sanctuary, they left with a little more love in their hearts, ready to share it with others. As the seasons changed, so did the sanctuary. New animals arrived, each one needing care and love. Elara welcomed them all, eager to help them heal. With every new arrival, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wanted to show the world that every life mattered, no matter how small. One day, as the sun began to set, Elara sat on a bench overlooking the fields. She watched Orion play with a group of rescued dogs, their laughter filling the air. A warm breeze brushed against her face, and she closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her dreams shifting into reality. She realized that the sanctuary was not just a place for animals. It was a movement of compassion that could inspire others to take action. In that moment, Elara made a promise to herself. She would continue to fight for animal rights and welfare, to inspire kindness and compassion in others. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but with Orion by her side and a supportive community behind her, she felt ready to face whatever came next. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Elara felt a sense of peace. She had found her purpose, and it was a beautiful thing. Watching Orion and the other animals, she understood that their bond had sparked a revolution of kindness, a legacy that would live on in the hearts of many. Share this story if you believe that love can overcome even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about how an unexpected visit has changed your life, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.